Hello, welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We have another 3 stories for you today. A treasure chest. The phantom write-up. And they did indeed talk. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Alright, let's get started. Our first story. A treasure chest. So, a few years back, on a rainy morning, I was driving to work. I had a turn coming up and the car behind me was riding my tail very close. I, being the little anxiety ball I was, didn't slow down nearly enough for the rain. I ended up running off the road, into a ditch, and hitting a plastic sign. This was my first accident. I was mortified and a bit shaken up. I ended up not having any damage to my vehicle and didn't have to file a report. Fast forward to me at my second job, and I'm telling a coworker about my experience. As it turns out, the sign I hit belonged to the company her boyfriend worked at. I asked her to apologize for me and went about my day. This being my first accident, or really an incident of any kind, I didn't think to reach out and offer compensation for the destroyed property. I was quite young and naive. Fast forward again to a week or so later, and I got a call at my second job. Someone who worked at the company of the destroyed sign was on the other end. When I answered, he immediately started yelling that I had destroyed their property, I hadn't reached out to them, and I needed to immediately pay $75, or they were going to call law enforcement on me. I was more than happy to pay, and put up no resistance at all, but was quite perturbed that he immediately started to threaten me before giving me a chance to explain, apologize, or agree to pay. QMC. That night, I went to the bank and explained the situation to the teller. I told her I needed to withdraw $75 but I wanted it in pennies. After hearing what happened, she suggested I do it in nickels because they weigh more. So, I ended up getting $74 in nickels and $1 in pennies. But it doesn't stop there. After receiving the coins, neatly rolled, I unrolled every single one and collected them into a box. The next day at work, a man came to pick up the money. I pointed at the cardboard box. He picked it up with a puzzled look but didn't open it and didn't say anything. The next day, a woman and her kids came over. It turned out she was the wife of the owner, and she wanted to understand why I gave all the coins. I explained my side of the story and why I was so upset. She ended up apologizing for the way I was treated and said that her kids thought they had found a treasure chest when they opened the box. It worked out in the end, but if I could redo it, I would have been more upfront instead of MC. Our next story. The phantom write-up. I was working as a low-level security supervisor at a hotel that had a bar/nightclub on site. I had some serious problems with the bar manager, who the staff had given the nickname of Miss Piggy. She was known to sleep with some of the guards, had to remove 2 of them for fighting one night when they both found out they were both banging her. She was also known to drink on the job, give away food and drinks, and was a constant pain in my ass because I did my job. During the week, the bar area was dead, so it was usually me and 2 other guards who worked the site. This night was no different, but Miss Piggy was in one of her moods. She had caught one of my guards on their cell phone while sitting down at a table in the empty bar area. Miss Piggy stomps over and demands I write up this guard. While I have had my problems with her, she was right about the guard being on his phone. I go to my bag, and I pull out 2 write-up forms and 2 pens. I give a form and a pen to the guard and tell him that he must write himself up and I am going to do the same and they better match. We separately work on the write-ups, and in about 5 minutes, he comes to get me where I am smoking a cigarette. We trade write-ups and begin to talk. I noticed his write-up was a lot worse than the one I wrote up and I asked, "What do you think would happen if I happened to send them in?" He responded, "I would get fired." I flipped back that Miss Piggy caught you and demanded you be written up. Would you agree that you got it written up? Yeah, this is the write-up you did for me. I understand that this is a boring night, but you need to at least look like you're watching things. I hand him back his write-up and tell him that if I catch you doing this again, I'm going to have to send this into the office for them to decide what to do. I will have no choice in the matter. If you need a break or a change of scenery, just let me know and I will try to make it happen. She came to find out later that the guard turned down Miss Piggy, so she wanted him off the site and fired him. I did write him up, I just never sent it in. This became known as my phantom write-up to warn guards without involving management oversight. I place it a step or 2 above the verbal warning but below the official write-up. Turns out that upper management absolutely loved the concept of it. As if I had to send in a write-up, the one written by the offender was a signed confession. And our last story. They did indeed talk. Not my story, but a close friend who passed away a while back. To set the scene, our story involves my friend, whom we will call Chuck, his mom, and his dad. When Chuck was in his mid-teens and full of that stupid teen boy anger, he blew up at the dinner table over something trivial and stomped off to his room. Mom, who has had it up to her eyes with this shit, turns to Dad and growls, "Will you talk to your son?" Dad sighs, pushes his plate away, and heads up to Chuck's room. He pokes his head in and says, "Hi, Chuck." Chuck responded in kind, and Dad went back to dinner, having complied. Years later, I worked with Chuck's dad and asked him about the tale. He just gave a little smile and said, "I talked to him, didn't I?" For whatever reason, Chuck always got good grades and never got into trouble. It was just that dumb hormonal "I hate you. Nobody understands me" crap we all go through. His dad was an enormous wise-ass. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.